Welcome back to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss, where our Terran player is spoiling my introduction, playing with the red SCVs. We have none other than the Gumi God, the Towel Terran himself. It's GuMiho. His opponent, though, down in the bottom right, saying absolutely nothing. A stone cold killer from Denmark. With the blue Protoss pieces, we're looking at MaxPax's main and Nexus. There's a very good chance he actually said GLHF during the countdown of the game, or for example in the pre-game lobby. I don't think he's actually ignoring his opponent, but when MaxPax is ready to play, we are no longer messing around. Slowly but surely, all of the Korean Terran players, by the way, are becoming Towel Terrans. Once upon a time, GuMiho was the only Towel Terran in the world, but still one of my favorite nicknames. Apparently he's got a condition that causes excessive sweating from the hands, and he uses a little towel over his mouse hand to apparently make life a little bit easier. And then slowly but surely a lot of the Koreans started picking it up. Yeah, there's this like little Terran meta. For the longest time, a lot of the Terran players, as we do have a little SCV, by the way, going for what seems to be a proxy. Yeah, I guess it's got to be a factory right over here on the other side of the map. You'll oftentimes catch the top level Terrans have like a little mini fan that they have pointed towards their mouse hand. So they have a tiny little fan that they spin around, and I guess the idea is that it cools down your mouse hand. Maybe remove some of the sweating as well. He sent this SCV really early, only to then play the most normal follow-up ever at home. What exactly are we gonna do? It should still be a proxy factory, but this SCV has been out here for a long time. So he obviously sent it nice and quick because he wanted to make sure that he could always dodge that scouting probe. MaxPax, though, is a suspicious man. We are checking out some of the likely proxy locations. Is he gonna be checking, though, down at the bottom of the map as well? Zealot goes across. Yeah, maybe this is just proof that Terran is harder to play, you know? Like, they're just the sweatier gamer. Turns out you can get high ground vision to spot the grass over here. Didn't know that. They're playing the little Reaper versus Zealot minigame. He knows the Adept is coming, right? GuMiho is not gonna be hanging out here for too long. Yeah, doesn't want to take the bait too far, because that Adept is here to save the Zealot. Okay, so it's a proxy cyclone. This is, by the way, the current version of StarCraft 2, not the upcoming balance patch. We don't really know which of the changes are going to be final, but for now, at least, GuMiho can enjoy building a cyclone out of a factory that doesn't have a tech lab on it. He's now also putting a starport right next to it, though. I mean, cyclone drops, while a little bit odd, it's not entirely uncommon. Main problem here for GuMiho is that he's gonna have a very hard time actually taking his natural expansion. Like, one Adept and a Zealot can actually keep this base occupied for a long, long time. And with a long, long time, I mean maybe a minute or two. Which, I've been told, is a long, long time. But maybe she lied, I don't know. Ooh, I thought the SCV was stuck, but somehow we decided to slither around the site. What are we gonna... What? Really? Okay. Anyways, that base is gonna be landed on the low ground here eventually. Marines are being pumped out 2 at a time. Yeah, so we're actually just going for a cyclone drop. This is the most GuMiho-esque build I've seen in a while. He's putting in so much effort and a lot of risk to try and proxy cyclones with a medevac drop. Let's see if it works. I mean, we all know that MaxPax is pretty much impossible to cheese, but what if you do something really weird, you know? There's a very small chance he's played against this over the last couple months. Pew, 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 pew. Yeah. Now, Blink is finishing. He's just hunting probes, I think, for the most part. There is, by the way, a third Cyclone as well. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, that command center is still not really secured. Okay. 8 probes, 4, 5 SCVs. I mean, these Zealots and there's one Zealot and the one Adept. Oh, no. Actually completely winning this game here for MaxPax. I know some of you thought the Zealot was gonna die to the Reaper, but look at him now. 5 confirmed kills to his name. Put some respect on his name, okay? Hit the like button, too. to put respect on the name of the Zealot. Zachary does not mess around. GuMiho needs to do a lot of damage in order to get back into the swing of things. He's going up against only triple gateway, so it's not a huge commitment, but you still have to be careful about this. Zachary is going to bring his friends towards the other side of the map. 2 Stalkers at the very least are occupied because there's a medevac with 1 low HP Cyclone right over here. Factory is going to fly back. Starport's still hanging out. It means that there's not really that much production, and Stimpack only just now begins. So even though this Stalker aggression is very late, MaxPax can run circles around this Terran army for a long while. We've all seen how good his control is. Liberator goes down in the meantime on the other side. Oh, very aggressive blink. Picks up the low HP Stalkers. Oh, MaxPax. Oh, he wanted to get it. We'll write that one up to ping. This is, of course, the American server. Europe going up against Korea. I would believe that MaxPax would have snatched away that Stalker on the European server. I mean, we've seen him do it before. He's very agile. A little bit of Stalker yoga to start the day. GuMiho, in the meantime, hit a supply block. A little bit sloppy, but lucky for him, he plays Terran, so he can drop a supply depot out of the high heavens. Okay. Ay. This is such finicky micro here from MaxPax. Completely unnecessary. But he does get 2 kills. And that's nice. The Cyclone over here, man. Oh, Stimpack is looking very close to finishing now. This is something that MaxPax needs to take into consideration. If he loses those Stalkers for free, that would be a disaster. Here's the Stimpack. Gets away. Doesn't know about the upgrade. At least he now finds this this random medevac producing Starport. Okay. The other medevac still going to town. Looks like Cyclone number 1 eventually did die. Charge coming up on the back of this, together with the +1 ground attacks. MaxPax trying to bring this game back into what looks like a normal match. GuMiho, of course, very much so to playing that Korean-esque style where he loves to create a lot of chaos. MaxPax is like, no! StarCraft is a spreadsheet. I love filling in the numbers. Make me make the game perfectly. And that's exactly the direction that he's trying to head this game into right now. You have to see what's better, chaos or spreadsheets. I'm gonna guess spreadsheets. At least in theory, spreadsheets are perfect. The main bottleneck is the human element here. But luckily, MaxPax might not be a human. Still though, GuMiho coming in. There are a few Zealots now going to town as well on the other side of the map, and that actually is going to be really tricky for GuMiho to deal with. He's not really making a lot of headroom here with the main fight at the front. So I think MaxPax will be more than happy. Oh my god. Yeah, these Zealots are actually going to win the game. Dude, we've seen like 4 Zealots in this game. They haven't done nearly as much in the straight-up fights, but they have destroyed the Terran's economy. Next up, we find ourselves on Site Delta. I mean, that game was actually really good for GuMiho. It's just that MaxPax played gooder, as they say. It's one of those situations where I feel like GuMiho would have won that game against practically every Protoss under the sun. But MaxPax is really good. That's why I believe MaxPax is the best Protoss player in the world. He's really good in those very finicky situations. It's the type of stuff, like, he plays so many games that I actually believe MaxPax has played against that exact build order several times, and he actually has decided that the approach he went for is the optimal one. I feel like there are very few situations where MaxPax is like, huh, I actually don't know what the best approach is. He's got a very large data bank, you know? His spreadsheet it's large. He's got a lot of data stored somewhere in his brain. And it's allowing him, well, brain. You know, brain. He's got one of these large SSD upgrades, I guess. NVMe drive is going hard. Now, all memes aside, like, MaxPax really is genuinely very good. And he has that very robotic quality. We've seen this. I've only ever really seen this from Serral. Like, Serral has this innate quality where he just looks like a straight-up robot. And for a long time, he also kind of sounded a little bit like a robot when he had more of like a thick Finnish accent. So he seemed a little bit AI-like, right? These days, actually, Cero is a total memester. It's a little bit different. He still certainly has that robotic gaming quality, but MaxPax also has some of that, where he's just... Like, you will rarely see MaxPax sitting at too many minerals, right? Like, when's the last time we've seen MaxPax make, like, macro mistakes? It doesn't really happen. I feel like in most of those games that are below, like, maybe, like, how long was the previous game? Like, 6, 7, 8 minutes or so? I feel like up until that point, MaxPax is pretty much uncheesable. I'm sure there are some vulnerabilities in, like, the mid and the late game, but the early game, MaxPax has played too many games against Clem. Too many games on the European server, and kind of figured it out how to solve it. I say that, though. This is GuMiho we're talking about. If anybody can come up with something weird, it is certainly the Gumi God. So far, though, nothing really out of the ordinary. GuMiho was the original mech player, the original battlecruiser rusher. These days, GuMiho doesn't really play that funky anymore, but he sometimes still has a bit of that in him. You know what? Maybe after that previous game, he's feeling like he needs to bring out something spicy. Stargate opener for Max. Bit of a curious one. We don't see a ton of Stargate openers from him. Stargate is actually very risky. But, yeah, especially against this build. So, like, Cyclone Marine into a medevac push, it is something that can shut down Phoenix play very rapidly. It doesn't mean that, like, Phoenix plays are a straight-up GG. But it is a dangerous play. So the problem is, and this is exactly what's being changed in the upcoming patch. I see a lot of people complaining about the upcoming patch, actually, but I really think the Cyclone is a big change. You can't really open up Cyclone anymore nearly as easily as Terran. If you go Adept into Stargate in this patch, so in the current live version of the game, you go Adept into Phoenix, it's really hard for Protoss to deal with this specific opener here from Terran. That Cyclone just completely murders any sort of Adept aggression, and then suddenly Terran should have a pretty good time maneuvering around the map. There's some follow-ups here that are going to be quite difficult for MaxPax to hold. We'll have to see which one GuMiho decides to go for. For now, playing this safe. You can't afford losing a medevac full of Marines, obviously. Careful. Why are we going fishing, man? He wants to deal some damage. MaxPax wants to get that medevac really badly. So far, doesn't get the job done. Yeah, so the change in the upcoming patch is that the Cyclone is going to be reverted back to its old state. And that means that you need to have a factory with a tech lab in order to make a Cyclone. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it really does make everything a little bit slower in the early game. I think it's making Stargate openers at least a little bit more viable. Don't know if they're going to be great. I still think Blink is going to be the most common early game option, but at least Stargate is a little bit more viable moving forward. At least assuming those changes actually make it to the final version of the patch. I wonder if we're actually going to see another update to the patch before it goes live. Okay. Gets one of the Phoenixes. Maybe two of the Phoenixes? A little bit of a mistake there from MaxPax. Should be going into Colossus here. Oh, supply blocked. Is MaxPax human? Guys, he's killing his own probes. A little bit of execution here. He canceled one of his probes in the Nexus too to start up that Colossus. Still did not have enough supply, decided to execute Probius. He had it coming, to be fair. He had it coming. And that means he should be able to get a Colossus ready to go, but this game is not going so smoothly for MaxPax. So exactly what I was trying to say at the very beginning of this game is happening. MaxPax looks pretty much impossible to stop in the early game. Loco, 4 minutes ago. That was me, impersonating me. We've actually caught Max doing maybe it's a glitch in his programming or something, I don't know. But anyways, we have actually caught Max making a couple of errors now. And that means that this Terran attack is going to hit even harder than it already would. I actually don't know if Max can stop this, but let's see. Good first shot on those siege tanks. MaxPax did successfully force his opponent to slow all of this down. Phoenixes seem to be winning the fight in the air for now, but it's by no means great. Stimpack is just about to finish up. Lasers are going to be a necessity. There's basically only one Colossus here, man. Terran army here is looking mighty fine. Good zoning here as well with those leftover Vikings. At least there's still a shield battery, well, a shield battery overcharge to fall back to. That's nice and all, but... Okay, Immortal trying its very best. Great play here by GuMiho, though. Found an opportunity, tested the waters. He knows that this is an attack that is holdable for Protoss, but if Protoss makes any mistakes whatsoever, it's extremely hard for Protoss to transition towards the mid game, and that's exactly what GuMiho is trying to prevent here. He doesn't yet have a third command center. He doesn't yet have one powered up either, but he doesn't seem to need one. I think he's going to be able to obtain the victory here over the next minute or so. He's killing the third Nexus from his opponent. That's going to make it 2 base versus 2 base. His army is looking absolutely massive. The Vikings are winning the fight in the air, and that means that the Colossus is going to be next. And even though the Stalkers are trying to keep all of this alive and the Zealots are ready to charge at some siege tanks, I feel like all of it is just a little bit too late. Calm and collected here by GuMiho. Split off just enough units to eventually kill that base, including the pylon. We do have MaxPax trying to sneak out another expansion over here. This is apparently the moment where we decide to pull the trigger on the charge. But even that landed Viking is here to soak up some of the damage. It's GuMiho who evens up the score. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 3 series. We are on Ghost River. Bad start for GuMiho. He messed up the GLHF. Yikes. Yikes. May as well leave. May as well just step out, man. Just immediately follow it up with the GG. That's embarrassing. Okay. Well, let's see if we can overcome this very significant error. It turns out the only thing that can stop MaxPax is MaxPax. That's what we've learned from that previous game. When you think about it, though, I guess that's the case with every pro gamer out there. With every StarCraft player, really. Like, I am really good at hindering Lowko. Yeah. Mentally, physically, gameplay-wise, really good at doing that to myself. This wouldn't be an issue if I just played perfectly. I like how MaxPax, by the way, is still not responding at all. He probably did already GLHF and it's just not part of the replay file. So the way it works, right, in StarCraft 2, you have that 3, 2, 1 countdown before the game begins. And they added that in like 2017 or whatever. That wasn't part of the original game. But if you say something in the in-game chat before that point in the game, so before technically second number 0, right, before the game actually starts, it isn't always recorded in the replay file. If you go to the very beginning of the game and you hit the back button in the replay a couple of times, sometimes it magically appears. I can't quite find out any logic about it, but what I'm saying is there is a chance that GLHF was actually here given as a response to MaxPax's GLHF at the very beginning of the game. It is a little bit funky. It is also very common to give GLHFs at the very beginning of the game. Like in the pre-game lobby. A lot of pro gamers will be going 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 4A, GLHF, GLHF, GLHF. Like they will be typing repeatedly 17 times over and over and over again before the game even starts. Let's see. Should be a Stargate opener. No, it's going to be a Twilight Council opener. Much safer. In the meantime, no proxy structure on the other side of the map for GuMiho. Just, yeah, going into a 2-base 1-1-1. This is the opener that is quite safe against most things for Terran. If you go up against, like, a Protoss player who's going for, like, say, the MaxPax build, you can actually deal with that opener quite well. The proxy gateway. Because you do go for that much faster factory here than the command center itself. Obviously, the downside, though, is that now, when the adepts come in, you don't quite have the CC done. And while you do have some more production, yeah, now your command center is delayed a bit. It is important for GuMiho to finish that ASAP, because this command center is already relatively late. And you really don't want to delay it any more than you absolutely need to. Okay. There's the blink. We should see an orbital command, by the way, immediately. There it is. This is my biggest pet peeve whenever I cast viewer games featuring Terran players. I know this is never highlighted, but note, every Terran player below Diamond League watching this, orbital command began instantly. The amount of viewer games that I've casted over the years, as we do have a nice little interception here by GuMiho. Catching a couple of those adepts like that. Again, Cyclone is amazing against adepts. Oh, gets both of them. Really nice. Sorry, I was busy roasting my viewers. Maybe roasting your viewers is a bad idea. Something about biting the hand that pays your bills. Anyways, shout out to the Terran players watching this. Especially the ones that don't make orbital comments. Love you guys. I'm just kidding. I did a poll recently on my YouTube community tab, and only like 15% of my viewers has actually played a game of 1v1 this year. Which is kind of the beautiful thing about StarCraft. I know a lot of people looked at that poll result and they were like, ooh, yikes. That's not good. Guys, that's amazing. The fact that so many people still watch StarCraft videos despite never playing StarCraft is something very unique in esports to StarCraft. That doesn't really happen in like Counter-Strike or League of Legends or whatever other esport is out there, you know? StarCraft has a very large viewer base that loves watching the game, but I understand that playing is exceptionally boring. Unless you want to make it your second job. Well, it's boring in the sense that, you know, it's painful. StarCraft's great if you're a bit of a masochist. Nothing better than after a long day of work or school or whatever, to come home and beat your head against the keyboard a couple times. Nothing more relaxing than ending your day in the most salty way imaginable. Losing some games in the 1v1 ladder. No, I get it. It's lovely to watch. I've also actually been playing a little bit less myself. As we do have a big blink, though, up towards the high ground. GuMiho once more coming in with that good old 3-gate aggression. I feel like GuMiho has been getting, or sorry, MaxPax rather, going in with the 3-gate aggression. I feel like he's been putting in a lot of work with triple gate, and he makes it look like he's got 4 gateways in total. Like every time I double check, but he gets so much damage done with these pushes. In the meantime, though, there is one cheeky little liberator here, killing a lot of probes, and also shutting down quite a few of them. Eventually, he's gonna be paying for all of this with his life. Retargeted right there to kill one final probe on his way out. Problem here, though, for GuMiho is that his upgrades have been delayed tremendously. He's forced to restart a tech lab right now, and Stimpak is going to be done in about 7.5 years. Yeah, it's annoying. Stimpak, never going to start at this rate. Siege Tank is going to get targeted down. My god, dude, double blink on Stalkers is really good, isn't it? Some revenge as well on that Cyclone for killing those Adepts earlier. Okay. Third command center starts up inside of the main base. But this is a Terran player who's going to be chilling. We probably won't be seeing GuMiho really do anything until this Stimpak upgrade is done. There's a chance he's going to try and sneak out a medevac or two, but yeah. It is a dangerous play. That means he's essentially leaving his Stimpak very exposed once again. Shh. Don't talk too loudly. Okay. Don't talk too much. Oh, MaxPax. Star senses are tingling. Checking for any third base that might be hiding in the quote-unquote wrong location. He must notice, though, that there's not that much. Yeah, he's checking right now. Is there more? It seems a bit fishy. Don't think there's really much for those Stalkers to do anymore, but MaxPax is going to go into a fourth base here himself. What's cool about StarCraft, though, in general, too, is that a lot of the people that have been watching this game have been watching this game for a very long time. Right? Like, in my mind, esports, a lot of people kind of frown, right? A lot of, you know, boomers in particular, they kind of frown at, like, electronic sports. But StarCraft, in that sense, is the closest to traditional sports, right? Like, a lot of people love watching football, but very few people actually play football, right? And I feel like it's the same for StarCraft as well. Like, there's a lot of folks that love watching StarCraft, but playing it is an entirely different story. Like, maybe you played football once upon a time. Oh, big aggressive blink forward. Bit of an overextension there by Max. Third base does land. There's honestly not enough follow-up here, but those siege tanks on the high ground are trying their best. Medevac gets sniped down. Zealots are going to be able to clean up any of the leftover Marines as well, as they are just carved to pieces. GuMiho trying to sneak this base out. He knows he needs to keep this one alive, because he needs more money really quickly. So what he has been doing, GuMiho that is keep making SCVs. He's been heavily oversaturated on 2 bases, so he can instantly fully saturate the mineral line over here. Get the gases going, maybe think about a transition towards ghosts. But at this point, MaxPax, he's been building off of 4 base for quite a long time, and he is ready to see if he can shut down this 3rd base, and with it, potentially win the series. Nice siege tank shot over there on top of all of those stalkers. Zealots, though, are forcing that Marine Marauder army to back off. We had a Zealots around inside of the main base, too. Calm and collected. It's MaxPax who wins the series. He made a sloppy couple of mistakes in game number 2. A little uncharacteristically so, but other than that, I mean, absolute domination from the Danish Protoss. I mean, that was a relatively quick series, right? I think we can add one more. Spawning right here at our next best of 3. In the top left-hand corner in game number 1. Playing with the blue Terran pieces, we have none other than ByuN. His opponent down in the bottom right with the red Protoss probes. He goes by the name of Hero. Can I do more PvT? Is that allowed? I like this matchup a lot. It's fun to watch it develop. I gotta say, I really am enjoying it quite a bit, especially on the new multiplayer balance patch. I think the energy overcharge ability really does shake up the early game quite significantly. Now, there's a lot of debate whether or not it's a buff or whether or not it's a nerf. It seems like most of the StarCraft community thinks that it's a buff in Protoss versus Zerg, but not everybody is out on... Oh, okay. On Protoss versus Terran yet. The shield battery overcharge really does make the early game defense for Protoss quite a bit trickier. Or the removal of said, you know, ability. So, yeah, it's a little hard to say. Obviously, the Stalker is 3 seconds quicker too, but there is some of that core strength, right? That is sort of missing on some of those early game Protoss units. I've seen some people on Reddit and on the Battle.net forums suggest like a straight up Stalker buff, which always makes me giggle a little bit. Like, I see some people that are suggesting like more armor or like more HP or movement speed or whatever on the Stalker. I mean, it would be okay against early game cheeses from Terran, like the one that we see right here from ByuN, but it would also make MaxPax basically unstoppable. Like, imagine those previous games we just saw, but the Stalkers have like 10% more HP. He would never lose a game. Okay, maybe he would, but it would be significantly harder, that's for sure. Yeah. The tricky thing about the Protoss early game units is that most of them are useless without their Twilight Council upgrade. Right? Like, I think we can all agree that Stalkers are a lot better when they get Blink. Zealots are a lot better when they get Charge. Adepts get a lot better when they get their Glaives. Hey, this is actually not just a Reaper. He's following this up with a Tech Lab as well. So he's actually going full cheese. This is such a ByuN build, man. So he's proxying a barracks on the other side of the map. It's not even really the other side of the map. He's proxying a barracks over at his own 3rd base. And he's actually going to turn this into a concussive shell push. Now, the funny thing is that Hero hasn't scouted. So he could have just built it over here. He could have built it over here. He decided to hide it to the best of his abilities. Put it in the most conservative position possible. And it turns out he could have put it literally anywhere else. It would have worked out just fine. Maybe the Adept? No. It doesn't move up towards that ramp. So he's not going to be able to see this coming. It's a Stargate opener, though, for Hero. Which means... GG? Maybe? Yeah, this is one of the issues you run into. I mean, it's not necessarily GG, but it's really hard for Protoss to hold this sort of thing with a Stargate opener. Especially if he goes Phoenixes. Maybe if he goes Oracle. Okay, he goes Phoenix. Yeah. And this is a little bit of that rock, paper, scissors. You have to make the decision to go Stargate or Twilight Council before you can really scout what it is the Terran goes for. And it turns out against certain build orders, you might be better off. Against the vast majority of build orders, you are better off going for her Twilight Council opener. We'll have to see though, there is a shield battery over here. We do have a robo facility. We have Stimpack coming up too. ByuN, it's time to go. Okay, we are gonna go right now. This is also a bit of a strange proxy, right? So this means that there's like an additional 10 seconds of travel time for these units popping out of that. Which means that reinforcements do show up relatively late, but look at this, we have 3 Adepts and 2 Phoenixes up in the air. We can immediately drop those Marauders on top of this. There's not a lot of anti-air, I guess. How many probes will go down, though? Keep in mind that this is a one-base play here from ByuN. Probes! Oy, oy, oy. Getting roasted. Yeah. Maybe it's holdable. A lot more probes are going to go down. Yeah, Phoenixes don't have energy here. Okay. They got enough together for another Graviton lift, and he decided to use it on one of the Hellions, and now one of the Marauders is next. But I'm a little afraid here that the Marauders are just gonna kill everything before the Phoenixes can accumulate enough energy. Pylon is taking a lot of damage. Keep in mind that the Viking deals additional damage in this mode against mechanical units, like for example probes, so actually really, really good. Shield battery overcharge, he's enjoying it while it lasts. This is a bit of a painful one right here for Hero. Ay. Like, a nice control here, obviously, by ByuN. But this is one of those weird rock, paper, scissors scenarios that happens in PvT, where sometimes you just choose the quote-unquote wrong build. The Phoenixes are so awkward, man. They're like, guys, please stop. Guys. What about diplomacy? Okay, diplomacy wasn't an option. Hero now has as many workers as he starts the game off with in a game of Brood War. Which is not a lot. So despite being one base for a long time, ByuN decides to expand behind this. This is about the Protoss equivalent of flying your command center to the corner of the map. It is certainly allowed. It's not against the rules. But I have a very hard time seeing Hero get back into the swing of things. Because keep in mind, he just used all the energy on those Phoenixes to, well, kill the Terran army on his side of the map to the best of his chances. And that means he doesn't have energy to lift off the main units over there inside of the mineral line of the Terran. I mean, the Phoenixes will dominate the game, though. There's very little ByuN can do about it. Hero believes he's got a chance to get back into all of this. Just making Marines and Cyclones should shut it down, right? Viking also, not a bad choice. Yeah, GG. Next up, we find ourselves on Ghost River. And ByuN, he started this game off by sending an SCV straight across the map. Now, this will be spotted. It's a bit of a weird angle. Hero on a tech move right there will be able to spot this SCV. ByuN's like, no, just doing a little bit of sightseeing. You know, Christmas tree right over here. Christmas season coming up. Maybe we can, you know, bring that. My God. This is a tree that doesn't have a... What do you call that? It doesn't have the top. The apex. It doesn't have an apex. I guess it always has an apex. It's just a cursed looking Christmas tree, dude. I had no idea. Is there a Christmas tree on the... Oh my God, it's the same one. Alright. I know there are some people that purposely try to get the ugliest Christmas tree every single year. I always like that. People that go to the store and purposely buy the most ugly looking tree that nobody buys. I've spent many days as a child, many minutes as a child trying to pick out the perfect Christmas tree. These days, I am part of either plastic Christmas tree or no Christmas tree gang. Mostly because we have 2 cats. And cats and Christmas trees, I mean... Maybe if you have old cats. But if you have young and energetic cats, Christmas trees are a brave choice. A brave choice. Now that probe is trying its very best. SCVs though, repairing each other back up. Reaper is gonna spawn and that means that Probius will have to pray to get rescued. Okay, no recall. Sorry about that. No, sorry about that, Probius. Reaper has got blood on his hands. And he will be using that as information on the other side of the map. Are we going Stargate again, hero? Oh no. It worked so well in the previous game. Let's do it again. I mean, to be fair, it almost worked in the previous game. A lot of reason, though, why it almost worked is because ByuN was super nice with the positioning of that proxy Rex. Like, those Marauders showed up very slowly. At least it's once more adept into what seems to be Phoenixes going up against Marine Cyclone. Yeah, so this may actually be the perfect best of 3 to display why we generally like the older version of the Cyclone better. Phoenix builds can just get shut down so hard, man. Even though the Cyclone feels like such a niche unit and it's kind of garbage against everything, it has a couple of things that make it very strong. And this is exactly one of those. So, there's the Phoenix coming up. Reaper trying its very best to see if it can draw some of these units out, make it easier for the Cyclone to finish the job, but for now Hero has been pushed back. A lot of it also has to do, I guess, with map design though, right? Like, it depends on what sort of map you're on. Some maps certainly make Phoenixes a lot easier to play than others. I wouldn't say that this is a great map for Phoenixes, but maybe it is. I'm not exactly sure. Generally speaking, though, for fast-moving units, you want larger maps. When you can take that map control and you can make it so that your opponent has a hard time moving across. Units that are fast and speedy generally work better on larger maps. Adepts show up. That's a very dead Reaper. Revenge for Probius at last. But ByuN is making himself up for what seems to be a siege tank marine push. These are unupgraded marines, but there's just a lot of them. And Phoenixes, again, can only kill so much. We should see a Robo Bay here for Hero. He doesn't quite have the money for it yet. No, he doesn't have that resource even remotely in the future, so that means he is in a world of trouble against just good old marines and siege tanks. This is like Baby's first timing attack here. Oh, he's even bringing SCVs. Adepts will scout the move out and they can start working on some workers on the low ground, but all the SCVs have gone across. Okay, let's see. Those Adepts are nice, but they're gonna be needed at home. Medevac, a little overextended, getting a bit ahead of the pack. Phoenix is trying to see if they can deal some damage to those flying units. He needs to somehow delay those siege tanks from getting into the perfect spot. Robo Bay coming up right now. Immortal will be available soon. No Stimpack available though, and probes could be really nice. Okay, he does lift off those siege tanks. First target firing, second target firing. Siege tanks are back on the ground, and probes are already melting. Yeah. If you're wondering why we don't see a lot of Phoenix builds in this particular matchup as of late, this is why.